Good evening. It's Tuesday night. It's Disc Jockey News night. It's DJNTV night. It's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe night. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, John.
It is another fabulous night. Glad you're here. I'm back from LDI, and I don't know. I guess there's LDI means something, but it's lighting, and after lighting, I really don't care.
Well, of course, coming home means 20-degree weather.
And that would mean that I got outside, really. And I shouldn't say it. For those of you on Facebook who follow my personal page, you saw that I did get outside for a little while.
Yep.
Otherwise, we were there for like 3.5 days before I actually really went outside for anything besides from one building to the next, because it's like show, lights, blinky, blinky. Ooh.
Well, that's how we do shows, though. People like you and I, John, and I have a friend who's out at LDI for the very first time, and I told him, I said, just really soak it up. Just really enjoy that first time experience where everything is awe-inspiring and everything is overwhelming, because at some point you become, you're just kind of marching through with 1,000-yard stare because it's your 10,000th trade show. And it's true. All you see is the convention floor in the hotel, and it becomes, I don't want to say this, but a chore. So for those of you who are out there who are enjoying these shows, just keep doing that as long as you can. What I enjoy about the shows is the people, really. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that I enjoy technology. I love technology. I think that goes without saying. But it's really seeing the people that makes those shows, meaningful for me still, I think.
Oh, for sure. Seeing friends that we don't see more than probably 3 or 4 times a year. And this is our chance to...
At the other shows.
Yeah, the other shows. And we see them on Facebook, and that's about it. But... it's good stuff. But Ben, I want to make tonight will be kind of a short show for those of you watching tonight, because I wanted to cover one of the topics that. Oh yeah, there was the comment section. Going to be crazy. Really? Does that mean it's only 45 minutes? Okay. But one of the topics that I was hearing as I was going around and interviewing some of the different companies about their lighting. Of course, we've talked a little bit about ClingNet and those types of things, but the one that came up this time that I hadn't heard before was more lighting getting into something. I believe it was WDMX protocol.
Mm-hmm, that's correct. Yeah, WDMX is made by Wireless Solutions. It's wireless DMX, and it is one of the more widely adopted standards.
Okay.
I guess I really shouldn't say standard, because there is no standard. Wireless DMX is very proprietary, and there's a lot of different brands that offer it. But WDMX has become one of the strong front runners. And just a note about that is they've been around like 10 years. I think they were founded in like 2003 or 4. So they're not new. This isn't new to anybody. Maybe new to some people, but The product's been around a long time. The company's been around a long time, and they have a couple of generations of, chipsets and things.
Interesting. So now, does the WDMX, now say if I have my favorite wireless DMX from Chauvet or American DJ or Blizzard, those are some common ones that a lot of people have. Now, is it speak the same language, or what's the difference between that and what we're used to in the DJ world?
Well, that's a tough question to answer, because what you're used to is a very individual question. And like I said, there really is no standard. But so let's back it up from that and try to answer the question 2 ways. One is DMX itself is a standard. Mm-hmm. There's DMX, the DMX 512A. Then there's kind of the more recent, iterations of DMX with the ANSI standard E1.11 and so on and so forth. But DMX is a standard. If I take a DMX controller and a DMX light, they should work. There's a few things with refresh rate and whatever, but I don't want to muddy the water. DMX is a standard,
and that's a wired DMX is a standard.
Well, yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, but DMX, no matter how it is a standard.
Okay.
And wiring is part of the standard. And so I think that's one of the things I want to mention is when we talk about wireless DMX, I grabbed a few props. We're at the Geek Cave here, so I grabbed some stuff. Not at the NLFX headquarters. I'm enjoying life at home today. I grabbed a few things on my way home from the office, though. So, for example, here's an American DJ Wi-Fi transceiver,
Yep.
so called because it transmits and receives.
Move it to the middle there a little bit. Yep, there we go. Now we can see it. Thank you. Woo. Okay.
And what we can see is we have a DMX input and we have a DMX output.
Okay.
Depends on whether this is being used as a transmitter or a receiver, because it'll function as either a transmitter or a receiver, a transceiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so, taking that, the DMX that comes out of here, if this is a wireless receiver right now, the DMX that comes out of here is DMX. Okay, DMX is DMX.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes. However, how it gets from the transmitter to this box is what's unique and proprietary.
Ah.
So, for example, we've got, here's the American DJ one. Here's, more of an open source one. Here's something we can install into a fixture, a manufacturer might. Some controllers now have it built in. There's, DMX built in. Some lights have it built in.
Mm-hmm.
You see the antenna sticking up.
Yep, let me see it.
Another example here, where we've got DMX built in. The antenna's kind of tucked back here.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference, though, is that wirelessly, this will not talk to this, will not talk to this.
Really? Interesting.
However, if we connect them with a wire, they all will.
Mm-hmm.
DMX is DMX is DMX. In the production world, there's a lot of leading companies that have wireless DMX solutions. WDMX is just one of them. And again, I think it's one of the front runners. That's not based on any hard and fast market knowledge that I know of. That's just a perception that I have, I think. But we certainly see it OEM'd into a lot of products, and we see it as kind of a sort of a standard. But gosh almighty, City Theatrical makes a great product. Goddard makes a good product. Luminex, Avalites has one. Artistic License, I think, is a part of one. They're the folks that brought us ArtNet, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everybody has one, and a lot of these don't talk.
Interesting.
So, right. So if you had WDMX and you wanted to talk to this Chevet Freedom that I just showed, or this American DJ Wi-Fi, for example, or this open source one, they won't talk. And I'm on a roll. I'm sorry.
No, you're doing well. This is interesting. I did not know this.
There's a lot of these things that look the same. You see them everywhere. You see them on eBay, and first of all, many of them do work together. I'll say that many of them do work together, but so maybe it's a fine distinction people don't care about, where I say they're not the same. There are some interesting things with the firmware and the source code, and of course, me, I dug in and I looked. There are some differences, and in my experience, one would expect far better results with something like WDMX than you would from some of the, dare I say, DJ level products. Mm-hmm. But it's a cost and performance ratio.
Are they using then similar frequency bands? Because I've heard, I believe, in the DMX world, the 2.4 gigahertz band.
Yes, they almost without exception all use the 2.4 gigahertz band, which is one of the ISM bands.
Okay.
Industrial Scientific Medicine band. Anyways, ISM. Another one is 5.8 gigahertz. We're starting to see some stuff come out in 5.8, and pros and cons anywhere you go. Probably the biggest con with 2.4 is that there's so many things that operate in it already.
Yeah.
In fact, this video is getting to you via 2.4 on my router.
Yeah.
So if we looked at a spectral analysis, we would see that a certain amount of bandwidth is being taken up. And I'll tell you what, I know when my kids are hitting Netflix at the house, mm-hmm. Because there's only so much space. And many of these devices, these wireless DMX devices, use different methodologies for trying to get the signal there as reliably as possible. More so in the production level. Now, to be fair, I haven't taken a spectrum analyzer and looked at what the other ones are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you from an informal, unscientific, that they're more reliable.
Sure.
It's just they work better. But then again, they're designed for use in larger venues and more demanding applications, and they cost more. Go figure. Some fun things, and I don't know if I'm getting ahead of the questions here, but some fun things about the way they transmit the signal is they use things like spread spectrum technologies, and some of those spread spectrum technologies are like direct sequence spread spectrum, where it uses kind of an algorithm to spread the signal out, and so it actually takes up more room, but it actually becomes kind of secure. And pros and cons to the DSSS is the transmitter and receiver have to be synced to encode and decode the information. And anyway, you don't really want to need to know about all that stuff. But what we see probably more common is FHSS, which is frequency hopping spread spectrum, and that's where the signal is hopping around at prescribed intervals. And as such, it's harder to jam. It's more resilient when it comes to interference because it's moving all around all the time. And it would be nearly impossible to intercept, not that anybody's trying to spy on our DMX. But to that end, here's a little known piece of trivia. And this is what you get for spending a lot of night in hotels, watching a lot of late night TV.
We so have to drop a Cliff Clavin little video clip in here. Little known
hey, well, a little known fact, I was at the original Cheers bar in Boston a couple weeks ago.
Okay, DMX.
So spread spectrum technologies and frequency hopping technologies, I think a lot of people remember, well, hopefully you do, the actress Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr. You know what? There's that great Blazing Saddles reference, you see in the movie. Of course you have. Of course, It's Headley.
Headley.
All right. Well, the actress, no relation, actually presented the U.S. Navy during World War II with a frequency hopping technology that would have improved our torpedoes' reliability and made them nearly impossible to intercept and jam homing frequencies and that sort of thing. And unfortunately, she was just way ahead of her time. Also ahead of time, Nikola Tesla was doing things with this. Gosh, I don't even know the date. I should. It's a shame. I'm a big Tesla fan. Of course, I know his birthday is July 10th, but I don't remember exactly when he was talking about frequency hopping, okay? Perhaps it's in the book Peter Mary gave me. I'll go read it.
This could be a long show.
Yeah, you said it was going to be short. I knew that wouldn't be the case. Anyway, this has been around a long time. And so we have FHSS, frequency hopping spread spectrum. And then what WDMX uses is adaptive frequency hopping spread spectrum, which is looking at the spectral space and seeing what's busy and avoiding it.
Okay.
And so it tends to be much more reliable. And don't take my word for it. Well, I mean, you should because, it's my show. But but don't. There's a magazine, Light and Sound magazine, in the UK, and they did a really good comprehensive comparison, the results of which I don't remember off the top of my head down to the specifics, but I believe the consensus was that in that environment, even amongst the other production grade stuff, the WDMX prevailed. It was the most reliable. So I think it's great that we're seeing some DJ manufacturers bring WDMX to us. Some crossover lines like Elation, which clearly serve a pro market. They clearly have product on tour, but they are also used by some DJs. They've had WDMX for a long time. It's been available in some of their moving heads, and they've had the EWDMX available for purchase for years. But now we're starting to see it roll out into several very specifically DJ-oriented brands. Yeah. I think it's great.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. So now just to clarify now, of course, because the units are somewhat proprietary. Is there a way to tell if things will work together without trying it? I mean, is there something like frequencies or like antennas on microphones and that type of thing? Is there a way to tell on paper?
No, not really. And there are different antenna options, but for the most part, most of these antennas are going to look the same because they're operating in 2.4 gigahertz, so they're tuned to the same frequency. There really isn't, and I just saw a post on one of the industry forums where someone was retrofitting some lights and was putting in the circuit boards to use their lights, and I tried to tell them it wasn't going to work with the controller they were using, but you know, I guess they'll just have to figure that out, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not all the same, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Several do work together, but most don't.
Now, is it possible, say, if I had a DMX controller, a non-wireless one that I really love, is there an option to get a transmitter that's a WDMX that would then transmit to some newer WDMX type lights? Absolutely. Okay.
Absolutely. There's readily available products for, and most of them are transceivers too, and that's the way the chipset's designed, but there are some dedicated transmitters. Anyway, it accomplishes the same thing. If it's a transceiver, just put it in transmit mode, you know? And yes, absolutely. In fact, there was a couple new, less expensive ones shown at LDI this year, but again, they've been around for 10 years.
Yeah, it's just moving into our market a little bit more. Yes. At least I was hearing that. Another question then. So if I have one of the transceivers, I have one that's set up as a transmitter. Can that transmitter in that world talk to multiple receivers, or is it a one-to-one?
No, think about it like a radio station. How many cars are driving down the road tuning into a radio station? You don't know, and it doesn't really matter, right? It
could be lots, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. So, you know, it's a very large number. Virtually infinite, I suppose. You know, it depends on the amount of receivers you can place in a space and effective, you know, radiated power, and it's more than you'll ever use.
Sure. Oh, that's good to know. Very good to know. Very good to know. Neat. I learned something once again. I think we should, for a future show, Ben, I wonder if we shouldn't dig into the wireless DMX and how to set up and kind of play with that a little bit more. And actually put that in that list of things we want to shoot when we get into the office there. We get into the headquarters there and shoot in Bemidji.
I would like that. I was actually thinking, as I was talking about the Light and Sound magazine shootout, I thought, gosh, why not do our own?
Yeah.
You know, we could have a little fun with it. We could look at what kind of electromagnetic energy is in the room already. That could come from a variety of sources. But as we've talked about in previous episodes, whenever the RF noise floor is raised, your signal has to be above that, of course, and it has to compete with that. So we could see, you know, which products are most resilient. You know, it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, have a good time with that. Great.
Science fair.
Science. Well, great. That's our show for tonight. I mean, we wanted to talk a little bit about DMX, and I think it really just kind of opens the door for the next Mr. Science Night. Thank you very much, Ben, for clearing up a few things about this DMX stuff, this wireless DMX that I came back from LDI, scratching my head a little bit and saying, this is different, I think.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it can be relatively painless. There's we didn't delve in real deeply, and I don't want to, you know, and neither do our viewers. But some of these technologies require a transmitter, an access point, and a receiver. Most are something like this, where you put a transmitter on one end and a receiver on the other end, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And it can be very simple and largely reliable, but your reliability is going to increase with your technology. And as you move into these production class systems, your reliability should be better.
Yeah.
But a good note to end the show on is there is only so much spectrum. It isn't any different really than, you know, wireless microphones or anything else. There's still, I think, a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about what radio frequencies are and how this works. When it's full, it's full. It doesn't matter you know, you can hop until you're blue in the face, but if there's nowhere to hop to,
yeah.
You know, all of these wireless technologies can and will fail. And in fact, that was one of the resounding points, even from these manufacturers who make their bread and butter with wireless technologies, is one of them said very famously, because it was right on the money, if you can run a wire, you should.
Sure.
Just nothing beats running a wire. Now, nothing beats the convenience of wireless either, but just understand.
You got to weigh it out and which one's going to be the best for that application.
That's correct.
Yeah. Great stuff. If you guys have any questions for Ben, just go out to Twitter and do hashtag NLFXBen and type in your question there. Or you can comment below this video, then we'll get you there. Or if you are seeing this, a link on our Facebook page, the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe page, put a question there, and we will dig into that in a future show if we have the ability to get to that question.
Well, we appreciate them. It's fun to respond to those questions, and things like this are fun when it's just kind of a spontaneous thing. So, well, I came back from LDI. Let's jump on this. I enjoy that.
Yeah, and to close the show, I wanted to share this with you, Ben. And we didn't talk about this before, but I had four different people at LDI come up, and two asked where Ben was because they expected you and I to be there together, and all four came up there and said how much they loved the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe show. So I wanted to share that with you.
Well, thanks for watching. Since we're handing out the compliments, I have to say that one of my friends was at LDI and told me that he met you and admitted he was a little starstruck. So,
seeing him, if they would have seen both of us, it would have been.
He'd have been overwhelmed.
Head mind blow. Great stuff tonight, Ben. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you guys for watching tonight. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.